Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also very grateful to our service members who committed so much over the last 20 years. And I do want to thank President Biden for taking the tough yet necessary step to stop and end an endless war, something that many of us have pushed for over the last decade. There's obviously still a lot to do, both overseas and here at home, such as ensuring that Afghan refugees are treated respectfully and responsibly, both on the DoD basis, such as ensuring that they can be transitioned into their new lives in the United States. We also have the responsibility to our troops and to all Americans to make sure that we have a complete picture of what we did, accomplished, and happened over the last 20 years across all the administrations. We have to look back so that we can do better when we look forward. One way to do better is to make sure Congress maintains and fulfills its constitutional responsibility. We have to put back into the hands of Congress the right and responsibility to declare war. What started as a mission to defeat al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and the perceived threat in Iraq expanded to 20 years of war in multiple countries with hundreds of thousands of lives lost and trillions of dollars spent. This is why I introduced the War Powers Reform Resolution so that Congress can take back this responsibility for the benefit of our service members. Congress must set clear and defined goals for the use of military force abroad and place a limit to how long, where, and against whom we can continue military action without a new authorization in order to finally put a stop to endless wars and prevent them in the future. Second, there should be a comprehensive, rigorous, and objective audit on the war in its entirety. Over the last 20 years, the United States spent more than $2 trillion on the war in Afghanistan, and we lost thousands of American lives and tens of thousands of Afghan civilians. I commend the Special Inspector General for Afghan Reconstruction for its independent and objective oversight of the Afghanistan reconstruction. But I do have questions beyond that. First, General Milley, in your testimony, you said and you mentioned that there are many lessons to be learned. What did you mean by that statement?
I think, Senator, thank you. I think there's a series of strategic lessons to be learned, and I would echo some of the ones that Senator Reid mentioned early on. Specific military lessons we have to take a hard look at. The United States military was tasked under the 2002 Bonn Agreement to train, man, and equip the Afghan army. The Germans were required to train, man, and equip the Afghan police. As we built that army and all of its components, I think that one error we may have made over time is we made them too dependent on technology, too dependent on our capabilities. We didn't take in the cultural aspects perhaps as much as we should have, and we mirror imaged, to put it simply. I think that's a big lesson. We're going to have to take a hard look at it, and the result is when you pull contractors, you pull troops. That, I think, is one of many contributing factors to the rapid collapse. So that's a big lesson. Another one is the intel lesson that we talked about. I think that's in the military realm as well as the intelligence community realm. There's a lot of other lessons: legitimacy of the government, corruption of the government. Those sorts of things are all out there as to why that government collapsed as rapidly as it could, but those are for others to sort out. There's a specific set of military lessons we need to pull out within the military.
I've also read, I've read various opinion pieces. I know everyone here is deeply disturbed that the trained Afghan military did not perform as expected. I'd like your thoughts on, if they had performed as expected, would we have seen a prolonged civil war? What is your estimate of what the impact of them actually fighting would have been?
My estimate is if they had, performed as we expected them to perform, that the government would still be there. They would have probably lost significant chunks of territory, but Kabul would be there in some of the major provincial capitals. But I'd defer that. Probably you get a more granular view from that from General McKenzie.
General McKenzie?
I think had the Afghan military fought, we would have probably seen the Kabul Bowl, the approaches to Kabul, get into the winter, still under the control of the government of Afghanistan. A lot of the outlying provinces would not have been. But I would just note that it wasn't so much the collapse of the Afghan military as the collapse of the Afghan government writ large. Those two things happened together, and they were completely linked together. So when you consider one, I think you have to think about the other.
Additionally, in retrospect, one of the areas of debate has been whether we should have started our evacuation earlier. And I recognize that the Kabul government asked us not to start our evacuation early. Can you speak to what you now know and whether it would have been smarter or more effective if we had started evacuating personnel a year in advance or 6 months in advance or any time in advance?
Could I ask the Senator?
I apologize. I didn't realize my time was expired.
Thank you.
I'll submit that for the record.
Thank you very much, Senator Gillibrand. Senator Fisher, please.